Thanks very much, and first of all, an apology for speaking to you in a foreign language. It is a foreign language to me as well. I'm a Scotsman. It's fairly, I'll maybe illustrate a point on data leakage. I mean, the Scots take English and they turn it into a language that the English can't understand. So basically, it's quite a good form of data leakage prevention. There's a slight problem that tends to come through. Avoco is Avoco to the English. To the Scot, it's ok. So, we're taking the same words and changing them. The problem, though, is it's a form of perimeter, whether we're inside our geography or whether we're using the language. Actually, people can actually start to discover from it and work through it. Now we're moving into a perimeterless world. So, yes, it has some value, and I think DLP in any extent, it's always going to be feasible to get around, but there's a balance between usability and security. So some forms are very good. So where I'll make some comments around one or two, any form of data leakage prevention has value. It just becomes where it's going to evolve and maybe some of the issues. So from my background, UK military is early days where some of the work I've sort of been linked to doing. They came up with, I think, which was a very good, clear thinking point. And they learned it sort of during the Cold War, or so they told me. They made the assumption the second data was created, it's stolen. What can you do? So on the basis they never know who's a friend, they never know how good their perimeter is, never know what can do. Their thinking was around that, and that helped, in my background, some of the evolution, what maybe you need to do. They did come up with protect data at inception and link it to multiple authentication forms. And they wanted to put access controls in the right places, not data administrators. If you're in a bank, they want it with a compliance officer, not the data administrator. They actually want the access and control of data to maybe change from the technical deployment of it. I mean, part of their view was they were having a problem going to war in the new world. I mean, maybe as a Brit, we prefer to, our government to be a bit more like Switzerland and not go into Iraq or Afghanistan, but they felt they had a need to go to war, and this was a barrier to them. So the military had, in the first instance, they've got hundreds of thousands of users. They've got millions when you go to supply chain. So this, in their view, required an untethered architecture. One of the flaws they looked, in their view, was that the architecture has tended to be tethered. This data is very dynamic, it could be anywhere. It requires access in many different ways. It could be on different mediums. CD, whether it's through email, wherever it goes. And that was a key aspect to the thinking. So how do you protect data? I mean, theoretically it's very easy. But, is it the simplicity of what everyone believes around data protection is summed up there? It is actually, in theory, quite easy. In practice, it tends to be a lot more difficult. So some of the issues, if I look at just to start, and why I think and where the future is starting to evolve, DLP products basically stop at the perimeter, as I've already said. So they only solve part of the problem. The UK government has had a major issue, child benefit records, 25 million of them going missing. The issue was they needed to share data. And actually, standard DLP products are fairly effective within a perimeter, but it's still a perimeter that they need to do business. They've got an issue then, part of the other aspect of it, I think an important thing happened just after I actually wrote the presentation and sent it over. Semantic bought part of Verisigns identity business. I think there has become a much more, and where I'm going, a wake-up call, that identity is becoming a key component around the whole data leakage aspect. Because actually, if somebody is the wrong person, there's no point in putting rights management on them. They've actually got your data. No print is a waste of time if they've got your data. So this aspect of dynamic data needed it. The issues around DLP tend to be you're co-opting people in systems, so it gets a little bit clumsy. There isn't a natural identity aspect. Next level up, rights management. But rights management's not really taken off in the way many people expected. The main reason I think, is it's highly complex to deploy. In the essence, between licensed servers, you actually have aspects where some of the products can't, Microsoft Rights Management can't apply rights inside SharePoint. And there are a lot of difficulties when you go to a tether-type architecture around it. It creates a lot of functionality, and again, the majority of the products fail to link to identity as a form of authentication. DLP products combined with rights management, I think they're very complementary in a lot of ways. Whether they'll have direct integration, or are people trying to do it, I'm extremely doubtful. There's already been enough issues around trying to get tethered rights management right. So if you fully integrate DLP, I don't think so. What I actually think is that they will coexist. They're a two-pronged for a strategy where it will tend to help you beyond the perimeter. The big problem with tethered rights management is it's not an awful lot better than DLP beyond the perimeter. You're having to open ports, firewalls, so on, to licensed servers and partners. So it hasn't really lived up to expectation yet. An example maybe of how it should be expanded with a DLP product, I'd go, you've got the no copying of content. Very importantly, if you're going beyond the perimeter, you've really got to start disabling hacking tools and other aspects. That does become an agent on a partner's desktop. We've actually found that a lot easier to happen. We deployed in very major hedge funds who've deployed 200 financial institutions almost seamlessly, which really surprised us. We would have thought there'd be huge resistance. But I think a lesson in that was they were being trusted with valuable data, and they were prepared to go the extra mile and actually do something to access that valuable data that was shared with them. I think you need print, audit, track the location of the data, I think is very critical. And you need this access around identity. So data leakage issues, we're working in this de-layered, deperimeterized world today. It's a reality. Insider, outsiders, unauthorized access is becoming a higher and higher risk. Secure collaboration, I don't know how many people know the Jericho Forum, that it's got the CSOs of some of the major companies worldwide, Eli Lilly, various others, AstraZeneca. It's got major banks and so on in terms of through Europe and the US. So the CSOs there's biggest agenda is secure collaboration. And the secure collaboration, I'm not looking, they reject the data room principle that in basis you're getting in there. It's just too easy to extract the data and pull it out. They're genuinely saying collaborate with third parties. They may well want to share a lot of information in drugs trials and other aspects, and there's a lot of privacy aspects. Enabling secure collaboration, again from what they've come back, and I've spoken to them on, is a key component is restriction by location as well. Allow the usage of the content, control copying, printing, date restrictions, virtual machines, but they again want to identify the users in their view, who has the right of access. So that's trusted sharing. Now, previously, we're looking at this cloud-type online environment of sharing data. Data used to be very static. It was an awful lot easier. So within an enterprise or so, you had a reasonable understanding, either inside or outside, where maybe it was going. Now, in this environment, I go that where I think DLP is going is another step beyond. It's the policies linked to identity, linked to the information. And I think that becomes very, very important in terms of the dynamic data. So start to think of data and securing data as a nugget of information now, as opposed to securing perimeters. The key aspect, and again I hark back to the UK military, was this is a nugget of information, it will travel anywhere. So encrypt it, control it, embed permissions within it, and put the controls with that of who can do it. It becomes untethered, it can move through different systems, but it retains the rights and permissions. And don't necessarily, if you're in a tank and Basra, you can't necessarily ping a licensed server to try and get it. You're going to have to do some online encrypted access. There are different aspects, but it becomes much more dynamic if you actually move the data that way. Now, importantly with the untethered is directly linking that identity or identifiers. The As opposed to identity, it's not necessarily just the person. Are you in the right place? Social security numbers, or other forms of identifiers can start to be associated. So you're going to then drive the policies. Now the important aspect becomes the use and the rights of use that you're going through. What I think will become very prevalent is the policy association, potentially with the people, rather than actually embedded in the data itself. It adds another layer. It's a kind of missing layer for the accident. A huge amount of data loss, and it is accidental. And the embarrassment level is not necessarily malicious, but if you have embedded control policies, it becomes very, very different. So the elements will be built into this process of retaining data, ensure privacy and belonging. So it starts to belong to the system, but it is also independent of the system. The security is determined by encryption and control layers. The integrity is assured by post-access content controls. Identities with dynamic policies and what I'm calling claims being utilized to enforce where, when, why, who, and how you access the data. And all of this associated with the nugget, the actual nugget of the information. So it's much more about information assurance now. So identifying users in a deperimeterized world. Well, I think there are new forms of identity being developed, which I think will actually liberalize DLP significantly. Really, we're following a model of geography, location independence, and user centricity. More liberating than the whole smart card essence. PKI is incredibly powerful and strong, almost like a steel ruler in a straight line. It's very inflexible. It's extremely complex and it's extremely expensive to associate policy with. You have to put in some very sophisticated systems. It itself doesn't inherently hold it. Examples of user-centric IDs are, say, OpenID and information cards. Information cards can act both in desktop and cloud and online domains. There are some issues around OpenID's security. But I think if one thinks in the world, I've looked at it where I've worked with identity banking PKI systems that have very small deployment. They're very strong, very powerful. Amazon username password has got one hell of a business out of an awful identity system and security level. So there is this balance aspect where you do need the usability in terms of going out, and they've assessed their risk to a level and they can take it to it. So leverage identity and policy by using multiple authentication and dynamic claims. Now, what I'm looking at claims is in aspects like information cards, you can actually add claims into the identity. So if I send report a link to my identity, I can actually have code controls and policies associated to me that associate to the information. You can revoke identity. An individual ceases to have access to the information anywhere. So if you're issuing these user-centric IDs, you can revoke them. But I can't revoke a national identity. I can actually make from my Belgium EID or my German EID or so, I can actually create identity of it. But I, as a corporate, cannot turn and revoke a national ID. That becomes part of the issue. But there are great ability to generate this who I am. It becomes either a claim or the actual information to supply the detail of who I am. Auditing the cards. So information cards have the ability to revoke access to emails and really, really specific. They're very powerful with anti-phishing as well. What they really are, and I don't know how many people actually know much about them, they're a digital representation really of the real world. Claims and credentials belong to you and can be almost anything. They can be verified by third parties. Third parties can supply verified claims actually to the identity. Selectable verification. Actually, we're working with people around them who are using voice biometric to actually access the cards. So in terms of the consumer end, they pick up the phone, they phone in, they're identified, they're into the identity system, and it runs through seamlessly to verify. They can use your X509, you can verify in, or you can go straight to. What you get with custom dynamic claims, and I think dynamic claims are the most powerful aspect of this next generation, is suddenly, you can have security clearance levels that dynamically change. You can have trust levels that change. If I'm with a credit agency and something changes, the claims that come into the identity dynamically can update. So when a corporate is working with a whole DLP aspect, what they're getting is real-time change and update. If my trust level drops, it can be ratings. They suddenly think I'm going to leave an organization. I have an awful lot of data. And if that goes through, you can drop my level. Suddenly I no longer have access to quite a lot of data and the privilege to those aspects. It's very, very dynamic. They support instant revocation and reinstate, unlike a PCAD. You revoke your X509, actually you're going to go through a whole process of issuing another one. It offers privacy. Users can provide specifically which cars they want to use. There's a movement which I think is very important around DLP. An awful lot of DLP is about you controlling someone else. Huge value is bidirectional trust. You actually need to engage with users and make them understand. Some of where we saw this was with the hedge fund, where literally on the basis of sharing data, there was a trade-off. They would start to install and control. As users start to understand the value, they're able to interact with you. So I think where DLP will go is this interaction. Of course, with aspects like information cards, what you're able to do, I as the user can see what I send to you, and I can decide not to. So it starts to become two ways. And that's how I think you build a much more powerful ecosystem where DLP will be much, much more effective. What we're looking at is, even in the UK, where the new governments come in, and they've gone, wherever possible, we believe that personal data should be controlled by the individual citizens themselves. That's actually this aspect of bidirectional trust. They're actually saying both in terms of the privacy, but the interaction that's going through. It educates the users, the policies can be easily associated and applied to users through the claims. So if I look at, this is something we're working on, you can probably take a good guess at which government we're working with on it. But if you think, they're looking at 60 million users, and this is part of their problem. So in the first instance, you have all the forms of devices, all the forms of potential of how they need to access a massive level of services. It's the entire online services. And where they're viewed and what they're looking to do at the moment is the log-on aspect. And the key component between it becomes information cards. So in the first instance, on that level, they're working and looking for that solution. And what they're actually doing is they're going to run the whole access aspect online in the cloud in a trusted environment. So where people have been looking at before between desktops and so on, it creates the multiple devices going through. The second aspect where we've been working with them is there are embassies globally who get very watch lists, all sorts of terrorist watch lists, all sorts of information disseminated. And in exactly the same way, what they look to do is to be able now to control the data going out to the embassies. Not only are they controlling using the information cards going in to control the policies, the security levels of access, through that, what they're actually looking to do is say this can only open it within the embassy walls in this room. So they're becoming location aware as well, where your data is in terms of running through. So actually I've just covered that location. I'll give you a little example of exactly where the kind of location control. So if we're looking, that's actually, I believe, the White House. What you're really looking to do is pick location points where they are. In this case, GPS is actually being used, and the GPS signal is being used to actually contain the data. Now, theoretically possible to spoof. There's multiple other forms of identifiers that can be tied in. So you may well be able to spoof the GPS, but they're using encrypted, secure GPS coming through to specific devices. You tie it to the device. It doesn't have to go that far, but it starts to become interesting in the cloud environment and data leakage. To know that your information will only open in Switzerland, or only open in Zurich, or only open in Now, the second aspect, which I think becomes very interesting in the next level of DLP is, so we've got in actual fact a real case here, Addis Ababa. This area is teachers with private information, students' information. What you're seeing there, rather than actual laptops, is where the data is. You're able to identify with DLP where your data actually is. You're not saying where I am, you're actually saying where that piece of data is. It happens to be maybe on my machine. Now, both being able to follow, why is the data sitting in New York becomes very interesting when you get a flag thrown up that your data is sitting in New York, and it shouldn't be. So knowing actually where it is, where it's gone, and what it's doing. As the data moves out, what we get is, with the controls, it doesn't open. So not only are you securing it, the second level becomes actually controlling you get the audit. You know where it is, you can start to ask the questions. What is it doing there? Why is the data got out to there? This is, what we're really looking at. The cloud, I've often been asked to speak about risk and everything in the cloud. There is risk in the cloud. I was quite interested in one of our technical engineers who was working with Amazon. And he was so impressed at the level of security and truth in a lot of environments. There's a major issue if you get a compromise up there that it's likely to be far worse. But in truth, there's a huge opportunity in the cloud. You start to run services and get real-time, both collaboration, access to data, running identity services. It becomes a hybrid in terms of where you're working through. What we're really seeing is that you become much more real-time around your data, rather than learning, I've lost a laptop. If your data is contained up there, the number, I think the UK military leave one laptop a week at Waterloo Station. There's mostly encrypted, mostly at lower levels, but the level of loss when data is continually on machines rather than its time expired, when it's pulled down. So I think the cloud has an awful lot of opportunity for that. The future. What I really see in terms of the future, what we're talking then about is content-centric information security. Information cards or potentially other forms that use a centric identity that can be associated in it. Multiple authentication. I think multiple authentication becomes very, very important. So an example we were given to work with was, you've got Cheltenham GCHQ is the UK's equivalent to the Pentagon. So you have MI5 sitting in there working on data. They know they're inside Cheltenham. The location's good. They can see Active Directory, X509, whatever else. They can see the network. Actually, they're very free to work on the information. They take the laptop outside and they're on the train. Actually, they're still the right person, but suddenly they're no longer in an environment that's remotely safe to work on high security data. So maybe they get read-only, or maybe it shuts down until they get to the next environment. So the forms of authentication at the next environment, there may not be Active Directory. It was set up in Cheltenham. It may be they have to use X509. So this ability to very dynamically apply this to the information as it travels and moves is very important for usability, because standard DLP products, you could lock the hell down out of an enterprise, but actually you wouldn't do much business. So DLP in its full use is actually very effective, but it's very, very difficult. And it may be protecting half a dozen really high-level documents, and you ruin 99% of the rest of it in terms of differentiation. So that's why I think the association importantly starts to become with the nugget of information going through. Geographic location, I think, becomes much, is becoming really quite key, particularly around cloud-type environments, regulations, where you are. But go to secondary locations, are you FSA approved and accredited? It's all of those aspects. Those can be claims that are associated into information cards. So you start to build in those policies, and it's seamless to the end user. Actually, they don't see anything. What you're looking really at is multiple web services that can potentially talk to that form of identity, like an information card, that can be driven off other identities. And then what I've touched on here was the live tracking, audit, and traceability. I think it becomes incredibly important. It's so powerful from the geographic side to know where your data is, to know who's accessing it, to bring back the audit in terms of running through. And you can potentially switch that on and off. You know, if it's valuable data or data that is, it becomes selective in terms of the DLP running through. Thank you very much for your time.